Hello, Ken.
Hello, Ilya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I should have. Oh, nice to see you. Nice painting behind you.
Yeah, from an artist I appreciate.
Very nice. I note that the heading actually reads Trade Roots Community Outreach Meeting. It's no big deal, but I'll just clarify if you don't mind once we commence that it's actually Trade Wins per our prior notice. I don't think it's a huge deal from your end, right?
No, not from my perspective.
Okay, great.
As long as it's covering you on the announcement.
Yep. In the announcement, we put trade wins and in the notice with the city as well.
I think we're set then.
Excellent. I see we have Ms. Shelford here from Wareham Week.
Yeah, Chloe shows up to most of these meetings. It seems that she's as busier on the meetings than I am.
Do you anticipate, I imagine there isn't a huge turnout at these meetings typically.
Typically, there's no turnout.
Good to know. Should we practice sharing my screen here? I guess I have share capabilities already.
Yes, you do.
Beautiful. Let me just try this out here. You guys see that?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Hi, Ken.
Beautiful.
Hi, Ken.
How you doing, guys?
Hanging in there.
Sounds good.
Gentlemen,
How are you? All right, I have a face for radio, so I'll be over here.
I'm like Mr. Pitts here, the face of Wareham, as we
Yeah.
like to call him. I was just saying, Jesse, that once we
Ken's
kick
the face
off,
of Wareham, just to be clear.
that's true. Ken is the face, the voice, the ultimate authority. And
If only.
and by the way, Ken, thank you so much for all your help throughout this and the rest of the process. You know, it's always great to be working with you.
Well, it's good to have an up and coming business taking shape in town.
Yes, sir.
We're
Trying
excited.
to cross those last hurdles, but we're getting close.
So Ken, would you suggest, right at 5 we kick it off? Do we want to give a few minutes to let people wander in?
I think what you do is at 5 o'clock you start, and I'll let people in as they come along if they do show up.
Okay, wonderful. Can you get to enjoy any of this relatively nice Massachusetts weather we've been having, at least over the weekend?
I was shoveling, it seemed, most of the time.
It's I have a 1-year-old, and for him, just seeing like the sunlight reflect off the snow, and
the wonderment they come on with, yeah. Yeah, I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old grandsons that come around on the weekends, and they like to sled down the back hill and back behind my house.
Oh, that's nice.
They go flying into the bamboo. The bamboo stand is there.
Mr. Pitts basically has a whole ice hockey rink in his backyard.
Yeah.
I haven't done
Nice.
that.
It's nice, but it's nerve-wracking with the children. You know, you got the ice, and they just want to go out on it. I'm like, no, not without me.
I have a little koi pond that is an attractive nuisance.
Attractive nuisance, very nice. Ken, will you want to kick off the meeting, or should I just 5 o'clock just go ahead and
No,
do my
you kick
thing?
off the meeting. It's your meeting. I'm just setting it up for facilitating for the process for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Jesse, hold on one second. Let me so adjust the camera. So that should hopefully stays in focus.
It's been funny.
What's up?
I said it has been funny. What happens when you buy cheap computers?
One day, Jesse. One day we'll have a race.
Someday.
Got to be economical, you know, building from the ground up. Looking nice in the office there, Jesse.
Yeah, it is Carl's office, but it still feels good.
Our office with the cheap webcam.
At least you have one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Where's the artwork?
It's coming. It's
Jesse is the
on
art.
hold, on hold with the budget. I told my kids I need pictures.
Actually, I have two of your kids' paintings to hang on.
Just give them some crayons and let them write on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Not my walls.
Yeah, and Jesse, I think the connection here in the basement, much better.
Yes.
No frozen, no robot Ilya here.
Ken, will this be recorded?
I'm recording it, yes.
Oh, yeah, outstanding. Good.
Has to be. Thank you for asking that.
Alex Pesselman wanted.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Welcome everyone. I am going to kick off this community outreach meeting. My name is Ilya Ross. I am the attorney for Tradewinds LLC. Just one slight editorial here at the outset, even though the caption on the meeting says TradeRoots Community Outreach Meeting. It is actually Tradewinds, as was included in the notice provided with the town and in Wareham Week. TradeRoots is an affiliated entity with Tradewinds, which we will discuss. And I will share my screen and begin a PowerPoint presentation right now, but just wanted to introduce myself first. Okay, can everybody see my my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much to Ken Buckland, to the Wareham Assemblyman, to the members of the community for tuning into this community outreach meeting. The goal of this meeting is to provide notice to the community of Tradewinds' application for a marijuana courier license under Massachusetts adult use marijuana regime. And to indicate our goals to positively impact the community and to also ensure that this license will maintain in the utmost safety and security, prevention of diversion to minors, and will essentially look to mitigate risk and to optimize positive impact, be it through revenues or other positive community impacts. So just an overview of this presentation. First, I want to talk a little bit about the actual license that is being sought. It's only one license. I know a lot of these meetings tend to have a cluster of licenses. This is just going to be one. Then I will talk about, as I alluded to, what Tradewinds will do to maintain security, prevent diversion, and perhaps most importantly, the plan to positively impact the community. I would then like to discuss briefly Tradewind's exclusive relationship with TradeRoots, which is an affiliated entity, some of the same management ownership, including Jesse Pitts, who is the principal officer and manager of Tradewinds, who'll briefly be speaking at the end. We believe, as we'll discuss, that this exclusive relationship will actually provide even further benefit to the town of Wareham by increasing revenues at TradeRoots and flowing through the added tax value and other sort of backing positives that stem from this relationship. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll have just some concluding remarks and certainly open the floor to questions should anyone have any. So we are seeking a marijuana courier license. You may have heard discussions of these new delivery licenses under the Cannabis Control Commission's regime under 935 CMR 500. These are new licenses. The regulations have just recently been finalized in the last several months. I think it's important very briefly to focus on the distinction between the two licenses under this program, which will help color our license application, what we're trying to do. So first, let me briefly discuss what we are not seeking, which is the marijuana delivery operator license. And again, I think just to the extent that people have heard about these delivery licenses, I just want to give a little bit of color and education as to how different they are. So the delivery operator license is basically a non-storefront retail license. And it allows the licensee to effectively conduct most of the operations that a licensed retailer can do, warehousing, wholesale, white labeling, without, of course, having a brick and mortar location. Importantly, it also allows the licensee to actually transact sales, to be the point of sale for marijuana and marijuana products, which of course is akin to the retailer licensing model in its host of onerous compliance, capital raising, and other obligations. Tradewinds is not seeking this license. Tradewinds is seeking a marijuana courier license, which has a much more limited scope. Primarily, the delivery license allows us, if we are fortunate enough to obtain it, to deliver directly to consumers marijuana products and marijuana accessories and certain branded goods. Tradewinds will not serve as the point of sale. Tradewinds will, in fact, only be delivering products for which sales originated at a retailer, in our case, as we'll discuss, TradeRoots. And Tradewinds will be receiving a small fee, transactionally based, as part of its delivery. So again, bottom line is this license allows us to deliver product on behalf of retailers with whom we contract. It does not allow us to be the initial point of sale or to engage in any kind of warehousing activity. So to discuss a little bit about what we're going to do to mitigate safety and security concerns, to understand what you need to do to address safety, you need to know what the issues are, right? And obviously, this being a cannabis enterprise, the risks include, carrying significant amount of cash, which creates potential for diversion or theft, potential armed theft, armed robbery, and whatever kind of escalation accompanies that. As a result of these anticipated risks, the commission mandates and our policies dictate that before our drivers even get into the vehicle to begin the first delivery, they will be required to complete a set of commission-approved curriculum that discuss topics such as cash handling, de-escalation strategies, and also what to do to secure product in any instance of diversion, theft, or loss. On this last point, I do want to say, again, we'll discuss this in more detail later. Tradewind's partnership with TradeRoots gives us an added benefit because TradeRoots has worked on for a period of years now a compliant, robust system of standard operating procedures and protections, including what to do in the case of diversion and some of these other measures. And Tradewinds will utilize and leverage that knowledge to ensure our own compliance at the utmost with these standards. So besides the driver safety requirements, there's also vehicle safety requirements. So all of our vehicles will include exterior alarms. For any cash or marijuana products carried in the vehicles, they will each be stored in separate, secured, locked storage compartments, which will not be easily removable to further prevent the risk of theft. Each vehicle will be equipped with a GPS monitoring device. The device absolutely will and must be attached at all times that the vehicle contains marijuana products. And importantly, there will be secure communication between the dispatching location, the retailer generating the order, and the transport vehicle. There will be, active monitoring. There will not be a prolonged period of time where this vehicle will be outside of, consistent monitoring to make sure that it's not just, in motion, but that it's in keeping with a detailed manifest, which we'll briefly discuss in a little bit. There will absolutely be no firearms in the vehicle. That is a commission mandate. That is a company policy. There will be, we will not allow for an opportunity of escalation by virtue of any of our drivers, either on their person or in the vehicle having firearms. Our drivers must wear body cameras when outside the vehicles, particularly when making deliveries. Now, look, Tradewinds is committed to ensuring full compliance with all data privacy and security laws. We are working on policies to ensure such compliance. And that is to say that these cameras will only be used for the sole purpose of protecting the safety of our drivers, and consumers will be notified of the use of these body cameras, at the time of order, ensuring that there will not be any unpleasant surprises. Our vehicles will be staffed with a minimum of 2 employees. Now, importantly, these employees will have to be registered as marijuana agents with the Cannabis Control Commission, which means they will go through a rigorous background check process, 2 stages of review, essentially, for their qualifications and their aptitude, to deal in cannabis, essentially. And of course, our very thorough hiring processes will ensure that we have employees who are both qualified and adept at, maintaining the responsibility of transporting these vehicles and maintaining safety therein. The vehicles, so the Cannabis Control Commission may inspect the vehicles at their discretion. We will likely be even more proactive in requesting an inspection of vehicles, again, out of the desire for utmost compliance. One of the issues I mentioned earlier, the secure compartments, just having a compartment that is not easily removable significantly reduces the risk of theft. Studies have shown this, and we want to ensure that our vehicles are equipped to maximize safety, without our drivers even having to do anything. Now, also, very important point, the maximum retail value of delivery at any one time will not exceed $10,000. So to the extent there is a limit on the cash that is contained in these vehicles, that too mitigates the risk of potential theft or certainly significant theft and business disruption. Moreover, we are in the process of beginning conversations. Of course, we're very early in the stages of this licensing process with potential vendors who could help us implement electronic platforms for payment of funds. Obviously, these will have to be fully compliant with all federal and state laws, which creates difficulty given the industry. But if at all possible, our goal will be to minimize cash carried at any one time, again, as a measure to ensure safety. So diversion, very important underlying public policy of marijuana establishment licensing. We will take proactive steps, as I will outline here, to do our utmost to prevent diversion of minors. So just to step back for a second and talk about how these sales work. So again, all of the sales will be generated from the retailer, which in our case will be our exclusive partner, Trade Roots. Once a consumer places an order with the retailer dispatcher, as we reference them here, it will be on the retailer to verify and require that the consumer submit a government ID that proves that they are at least 21 years of age. So this will happen at multiple stages, but initially it will be on the retailer to implement a system to ensure that this is the case. Cannabis regulations in Massachusetts also have strict possession and potency limits, which again, it minimizes both the risk of diversion and also the greater risk for diversion to occur. Now, once a delivery agent actually delivers a product to the consumer, they will once again confirm and verify the age of the consumer at the time of the delivery. They will review the customer's signature to ensure it matches the ID, and of course, review the ID as necessary once more. You know, to the extent that there is any instance of diversion or an accident, our drivers will be trained to immediately report that, not just to local law enforcement, but also the Cannabis Control Commission. You know, given the limitations on cash and product transported, you know, immediate conversing with the appropriate regulators will help us, you know, mitigate whatever damage there is in very short order. You know, one other point that will assist with preventing diversion or even theft is randomizing routes. So, you know, one thing we of course want to avoid is if there are any bad actors who, you know our vehicle, you know what's in there and want to, you know, hide in the bushes one day and to take some nefarious actions. You know, we will mitigate that concern by virtue of, when possible, randomizing our routes, not having a consistent, you know, set schedule or manifest, and thereby not being very predictable for any such bad actors, though of course we hope such bad actors will not be prevalent in Wareham and elsewhere. All our deliveries will be tracked in multiple ways, right? So they will be tracked through the CCC approved seat to sale tracking. They will also be tracked via a manifest, again, originating from the point of the retailer. Now the retailer will collect consumer information, including, you know, name, date of birth, contact information. It's important to note that this information is collected, again, solely for transacting delivery. Tradewinds will implement policies, as Trade Roots has, that effectively protect data privacy, including record retention and record destruction, all in accordance with various applicable laws. So now getting to the kind of more important piece here, what is this license going to do for the community, for the stakeholders? And here's where I want to talk in a little bit more detail about the partnership with Trade Roots. So as some of you may know, Trade Roots is a vertically integrated, provisionally licensed operator in Wareham, anticipating final licensure in the course of, you know, the next several months. The one of the primary goals of this entire transaction and this licensing application is it's threefold. Number one, it's to increase sales from trade routes, which of course is beneficial both on a business enterprise level, but also will result in increased tax revenues for the town of Wareham. The way these sales taxes work, essentially, because the retailer is the point of sale for these products, the sales tax will take place at that retailer level, which means that if you have a marijuana courier who is delivering on behalf of an entity that's licensed outside of Wareham, maybe in Plymouth or somewhere else, but they're delivering to Wareham, well, the sales tax generated from those sales will actually go to Plymouth or whichever jurisdiction the retailer is based in. With Tradewinds, all of our sales will be generated from trade routes, meaning that the kind of circular goal here of increased revenue, increased visibility for trade routes will also invariably mean increased tax revenues for the town of Wareham. Accompanying that is obviously the goal of increasing the footprint of local business, trade routes, as they presented in their community outreach meeting, years back here. Its aim is craft cannabis, quality product, local focus, customer focus, and the desire to procure a very popular brand. And the ability to do this outside of Wareham through the delivery mechanism will not only bring more customers to Trade Routes' doorstep, but again, will also increase sales through the delivery mechanism, which again will lead to higher revenues for the town of Wareham. Now, stepping away for a second from the Trade Routes relationship, Tradewinds' goal is it's locally focused, and primarily it's a locally focused hiring plan, which focuses on outreach, posting, and leveraging the local connections built over years by Mr. Pitts and other Tradewinds principals who are area natives, who understand that Wareham as a disproportionately affected area, as deemed by the Cannabis Control Commission, was negatively impacted by the war on drugs and should reap the rewards of a burgeoning legal cannabis system. As such, Tradewinds intends to host career fairs in Wareham, as well as New Bedford, and will work to make charitable contributions to the Wareham Public Library, as we are negotiating currently in our host community agreement. So back to the Trade Routes exclusive relationship, we talked about the significant tax impact that we hope this relationship will have, but it's not the only benefit. We anticipate, as I'm sure you've seen throughout the Commonwealth, once a retailer opens its doors, there's a lot of excitement, long lines, a little bit of a chaos with the traffic and parking. Security detail is sometimes required. There's a host of challenges. It's a good challenge. It indicates a high demand, but it does create operational difficulties. Having the Tradewinds delivery license will, we believe, significantly reduce traffic congestion, which in and of itself will not only help facilitate efficient, smooth operational efficiencies for trade routes and more sales, but will also increase safety, in that it will lead to less traffic at the retail store and also less cars on the road on the way to and from said store. Now, one other thing to mention about this relationship is, Trade Routes over a period of years now has developed a robust system of compliance, has become very familiar with the industry players in the Commonwealth, and has come to understand through its fairly significant stakeholder base what a company needs to do to maintain compliance while not necessarily bleeding costs and working towards to launch. And so the point here is that given this relationship, Tradewinds will be ready to execute on day one. And what do I mean by that? So as I'm sure many of you know, a lot of companies, they where they get stuck and where they get obstructed from point A of a license application to point Z of opening their store is, various factors, right? Access to capital. It costs much more money than they had anticipated. Compliance costs are much more onerous than anticipated. Projected expenses don't tend to cover all of the uncertainties that emanate, along the road. Companies overpromise occasionally. They assure opening well ahead of when it's sort of reasonable to do so. Where Tradewinds has an advantage here is that, given TradeRoot's process of working towards licensure over these past several years, they have an understanding, a unique understanding of the costs, of the compliance protocols, of the various procedures. TradeRoots has a small but very adept team of employees, consultants, advisors, who can basically serve as a backstop to help Tradewinds with the goal that this is not a license that we're looking to acquire and sit on. We're ready to execute and to move literally and figuratively on day one. We talked a little bit about the locally focused mission statement, which is shared by both Tradewinds and TradeRoots. One thing here I want to focus on is accountability. We've seen in the cannabis industry in the Commonwealth and at large an effort sometimes by larger enterprises to, either via partnership with local individuals or social equity individuals, what have you, to essentially get a foothold in a jurisdiction. But due to what is often a complex corporate structure in some of these larger enterprises, it's difficult to trace, when a problem arises, it's difficult to trace it up to the source of the problem. It creates obstacles in resolving issues. And frankly, when you don't have local individuals dealing with, local regulators, law enforcement, we've seen that create issues in various jurisdictions. That will not be the case here. With Tradewinds, the buck stops essentially at TradeRoots, in the sense that to the extent there are product issues, liability issues, customer verification issues, which again, our robust system of compliance will work our utmost to ensure there are not. But if there are, you as community members, you'll know who to go to, you'll know who to talk to. There won't be any hidden defendants kind of outside your purview. This is a local company with local accountability. And one final point here, as mentioned, I think as Warren's repeating, Tradewinds is a separate entity from TradeRoots, and contracting will be done on an arm's length basis. But what that does is that actually even further helps us in terms of safety and compliance, because both entities are required under the regulations to essentially have their own set of compliance protocols, and in some cases these overlap, right? Particularly as they relate to requirements for transport, some of the security requirements we discussed earlier. What that does is that creates a system of checks and balances, whereby no entity can really contract legally with another entity that's not compliant with the regs. And so both of these enterprises, by virtue of this relationship, will have to essentially ensure compliance of the other entity, which further serves as support for security here. We talked about these points. The only one I would mention here is, as some of you may be aware, the delivery licenses are for a period of time limited to social equity applicants, which we are. As such, there is a period of time. At this point, it's indefinite. 3 years is the standard, though it could be longer. Of essentially the requirement of the social equity applicant to hold control of these licenses. And what that essentially means is we're not looking to squat on licenses. We're not looking to flip them. We are here to stay. We are here to help support Trade Routes operations, as well as the operations and the revenues of the town of Wareham. Very briefly, because I don't want to take up too much more time on the topic of nuisance, Tradewinds will comply in excess of the requirements of the regulations in terms of times of delivery. The 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. block is a set one. That said, Tradewinds will be fully compliant with any local Wareham ordinances or bylaws that require deliveries to be completed earlier. Our vehicles will be free from markings, indicating that the vehicle is being used to transport marijuana, which again works both for this as well as safety. And again, detail logs, manifests, communication. Our dispatch point will constantly know where the vehicles are, and to the extent of any bad actor risks or potentially hazardous situation, there won't be a lot of time before dispatch knows what's going on and can bring in the proper authorities to quash any such situation. So that's the gist of sort of the compliance and the goals of positive impact for Tradewinds. I wanted now to give Jesse Pitts, who is the principal officer and the manager of Tradewinds, an opportunity to speak a little bit. Many of you know Jesse. He's a lifelong area native. Jesse, if you want to give a few words on this process, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ilya, for that presentation. That was fantastic. And thank you, Ken Buckland, for putting this presentation, helping us set this meeting up. First off, I want to thank everybody for joining this meeting as well. And this is an awesome opportunity for me as a Wareham native to extend the Trade Routes business that we've created here and to operate and give money back to this local community that I was a part of my entire life. And that is very real to me, and that's very satisfying to me to have that opportunity. And I want to thank the town for that opportunity, because without them, this wouldn't be happening. Trade Routes wouldn't be here, and Tradewinds would not be applying for this delivery license. I look at this delivery license as an opportunity to help curb the traffic issues that we've been seeing throughout the industry, and particularly in Wareham. And if we can actually offer a delivery option that is safe and compliant in Wareham, that Wareham benefits from that revenue instead of another town, that is a very powerful thing. And we need to understand that as Wareham people, that revenue could quickly go over the border to a surrounding town if we allow these warehousing licenses. And Trade Routes is dedicated to a Wareham business, and I think we need to stress that. And that's really all I have to say. I think Ilya covered most of everything that is important here. I would really like to open it up to questions and help answer those questions with Ilya.
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, I think that concludes my formal remarks. So yes, anyone have any questions for myself or Jesse here?
Hey, yeah, this is Chloe Shelford from Wareham Week. And I know that you're limited to towns that allow, delivery of cannabis, but do you have a sense of sort of how big your delivery radius would be ideally?
I'll answer that, Ilya, thank you. So we're looking at probably 20 minutes, 30 minutes delivery max. it's hard to justify going any further than that as far as the cost of the delivery. And we're really looking to serve the local community from this facility. So this allows us to do that. And, we're not spending time driving all over the state. So probably about a 20-minute, half-hour radius is my projection.
Cool. And then my other question, and I don't know if you know yet, but so on the consumer end of things, so if you put in an order, is it sort of like, ordering a pizza to be delivered where it's like, well, the soonest we can get there is 40 minutes, that's when we'll be there? Or would the consumer like select a time window for delivery, or if you know yet?
Great question, Chloe. And the answer is we don't quite know yet. We're running multiple models, and whether we want to be in certain areas at certain times without creating a pattern, we are entertaining that. But yeah, that is a great question, and the logistics will kind of steer us in that direction.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Yeah.
Just one addition to that, and that is a great question, Chloe, is that the challenge again is, besides the operational challenges of figuring out the technology, again, we do want to make sure we randomize routes as much as possible as a safety measure, while obviously attempting to give our consumers the utmost flexibility in delivery options. So those are some of the items that we're weighing as we try to figure this out.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
So it seems that we do not have other questions. As such, I believe we at Tradewinds are ready to adjourn, unless Mr. Buckland, you have anything else you want to ask us, or any other thoughts?
No, you've done a good job on presenting the case, and I think anybody who's been listening in has got a good sense of what was involved in this.
Wonderful. And just if anyone has any follow-up questions, concluding thought, I'll share my screen once more. Well, I guess maybe I am sharing my screen. Sorry. And can everyone see my email address?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So it's ilya@ilyaroslaw.com. Do not hesitate to reach out with any further questions. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ilya.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.